Welcome to Thriller Bitcoin. Welcome to Thriller Bitcoin.
I'm back, no more smoke, just gum in my jaws or smoke when I'm raw or alone, neither tar. I'm back, Gabbro coat, rip, rap on my sides, keep afloat, shot, rock when the shoreline falls. I'm back, no more home, ain't it fun? On a road till the end, little fish swim my eyes when they close. I'm back and it blows, pay bills, no one claps, no laughs, jaw sore, silver packs on the floor as I pack, and I chew up all your time. Keep chewing, kid. Keep chewing, kid. I'm back at a pose, call it fat, tolerated, no cash, hit a hollow, heel, clack, native flash. I'm back, drowning now, all round, just wet, keep the hate in your mouth, buy it, drinks, keep it fed, acid chews up all your time.
Mr. PlebDev,
Can I hear myself?
welcome to Thriller.
Over a car's desk today.
I know, dude.
Like the view from here.
What's it like being a dev-fluencer?
What?
No,
You
seriously, here, let's. I want to talk about this real quick, and I mean it from like it's a good thing. I think we need more devs, but we also need, and I think we need some version of this. I'm calling it a dev-fluencer because I think it's like interesting, but like, how do you see that? And you hear me joking about it sometimes, but there are these people that exist, right, in the Bitcoin space.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of devs, they want to be left alone. They don't want to talk in publicly, or at least they want to do as little as possible. And they don't want to, take on the responsibility of being a communicator, which is totally fair. Cause I mean, it's a activity that oftentimes people that are introverted, they like to do. So, but once you have these people that are good and I'm not talking about myself, but these people that are both good developers and very good communicators, they can really transform the landscape for a lot of people. And I think the original person is Andreas Antonopoulos, and he inspired a whole generation of Bitcoiners and Bitcoin developers. And I was definitely in that class. And coming from a place where I wasn't that interested in economics, I was a little bit interested in technology, but I was not a technologist. Hearing Andreas, who was such a passionate speaker, be able to talk about the technicals and give them their due, but then at the same time be this very enthusiastic, impassioned speaker that could pitch you on a narrative and an idea that's bigger, that involves the technical details. It's like the combination of those factors, they made him like a tour de force, and a lot of people were inspired by his words. And I think there's other people like that. I think that James Lopp is someone else that's like this, that really helped a lot of people learn about Bitcoin in a lot of different ways, technical ways that they weren't focused on. So people need a connection to the technical side of things. And so you always need to have communicators that bridge the gap. But I guess more of my angle is like, I just wanted to be a Bitcoin dev. I just wanted to be a developer at all. And I like helping other people that are on the same path. So I'm not the person that you should refer to explain, the deepest aspects of Bitcoin or the deepest aspects of even application development. But, if you want to learn, I can help you get started. And I think that's just really my goal, is to show people that, building on Bitcoin has a barrier to entry, and it can be difficult. It can be overwhelming, but you actually don't need to be Andreas Antonopoulos to build on Bitcoin. You can just be a pleb. and there's that barrier to entry that we got to whittle down. And I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to do. But anyway, very long answer. You know, I have my own personal feelings about this, and I have my own place I think I serve, but definitely I look to, those figures, as well as like nowadays who I look up to the most is like Super Testnet, for example. Right. Or some of the other devs here in Austin. I mean, I look up to Nick, I look up to Jim, but also like Tony and Ben and Paul. And these are people that, you know, they inspire me. And a lot of them, not really Nick as much, but are communicators as well, and they're public figures.
That's cool. Yeah, I always I don't know, since I've been around, I've been seeing a lot of this transition from plebs to devs, and it's definitely inspiring, I think, to the average pleb who's listening right now. I can think of one like the Wild Hustle, who's like getting into coding and stuff like that. And can you talk a little bit about like that transition and why do you think plebs these days are wanting to become devs? Like what is it? Is it or like what have you seen as far as that?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's personal for each person. For me, it was very much of like, I just wanted to participate in Bitcoin. I first and foremost became very, very interested in Bitcoin and was passionate about it, and was like, I don't have anything I'm working on in life. I guess it's a kind of vocation. It's meaningful that you can see kind of coloring your whole life, your whole career or whatever. That Bitcoin was that thing, and I just didn't want to be on the sidelines. And realized over time that like, oh, okay, I am kind of inclined towards technical stuff. I like learning about it. It makes me feel empowered. So wow, wouldn't that be cool? You know, isn't that a cool idea? So it kind of just started as that. So I think for a lot of people, you know, they do just want to work in Bitcoin. They want to contribute to Bitcoin in some kind of way.
Do you think they see that? Do you think they see the dev path as the quickest way to do that, as opposed to applying at a Bitcoin company like Unchained or like a Wasabi or something?
Well, you need some kind of skill. And early on, as dumb as it sounds, I thought I could just kind of, you know, show up and be my great self, and, you know, I would be able to add value. But, you know, it took a few years in Bitcoin for me to realize like, wait, I actually don't have a skill set. I have nothing to offer of value. And that's what got me starting to learn how to code. So, I mean, if you have another skill set, you can bring it to Bitcoin in some kind of way. Maybe it will be too early or kind of early for certain types of skills. I think some of the more creative and artistic things, it's a little weird getting into Bitcoin now. There's not exactly a clear path, I think, for a lot of those things. But that's how it started for me. And, you know, people that want to specifically be developers often end up becoming developer. Like if you're specifically like, I want to code, I want to, you know, do this, build apps, then you'll probably figure it out. You'll probably get started at some point in time. But I think for a lot of people, these skills, it's not that you need to be a full-time developer, but it's that this world of skills is actually really useful for no matter what you're doing. And I always like to tell people, like, you know, you don't need to become a developer, but maybe you want to be a little dangerous. Yeah. You know, get a little more dangerous with, maybe involves writing code. Maybe it doesn't even involve writing code. Maybe it's just you're learning about software, you're learning about GitHub, open source software, and you get really good at running software, running nodes, managing nodes. I think, you know, Nate from Voltage is a good example of something like this.
Totally, like,
he's not a developer, but in a lot of ways, he's more technical than me. And he has just ridiculous on the ground experience of running Bitcoin, running Lightning, running all of the software around it, and understanding how it works. And he didn't need to read or write any source code to do so. And he's, you know, very capable because of that. And so I think there's a lot of angles, and it's not going to be the same recipe for everyone, but it's like, you probably want to get something out of this technical knowledge. So I think that's where a lot of people come from. But I'm definitely focusing on the people that they just want to start learning how to code and they want to start building stuff. Because that's, we need that. We have, only so many builders in Bitcoin, and there's a lot to build. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to fix.
Yeah, totally.
There's a lot that's been broken and taken away over time. And so, who's going to be the next generation?
Yeah, totally. I agree. I think that what's fascinating about what you do with PlebDevs is like you're kind of holding their hand through that process, and it's been unbelievable to see Good Enough and some of these other devs like BTC Retriever kind of come through that program, and maybe they didn't necessarily start there, but they've interacted with that community. Can you talk about some of the? And I know you don't like doing this, and I'm the same way too. But can you talk about some of the success stories? You don't have to use names or anything if you don't want to, but can you talk about some of the success stories with PlebDevs and some of the insights that you've found just by operating? Because you've been doing it since 2022, I think, at this point, right?
Yeah, it must be almost 2 years now that I guess I've publicly been talking about PlebDevs and released the course. I guess that was what started it all. Yeah, I mean, success looks like different things for different people. And for me, honestly, I feel far from achieving what I've wanted to achieve, which is really helping be that person to get devs that I guess I really want someone to surpass me. fully surpass me and overshadow me, and that I was able to play a part in their journey. That would be so cool to see.
Yeah, describe that. What do you mean by that? Because most people don't know what that means, but talk about that.
I guess just go on and do bigger, better things than because a lot of the stuff I do is very small example projects and very simple apps and things that I show people. I love making little MVPs and little prototypes to show you how to do X, Y, or Z. But it's that's not the final level for me or for anyone. And so, the final level is where you can deliver software to end users and then improve it and make it better and scale it. And that it's a real solution to a real problem. And so I just want to see more of that in general, but the more of that I can inspire and help people move towards, the better. But I don't know, it almost sounds like not throwing shade at all on what people have done with PlebDevs so far, because people have done a lot of cool things with the skills that they've learned and built a lot of apps already so far. I mean, one of my favorite examples to point to is I'm trying to think of. I don't want to use his name. I don't remember if he has a NIM online. Yeah, no, okay. His NIM has Jason in it, but I just call him Jason. He went through PlebDevs. He actually started the Nostr devs course first and foremost. Okay. And he was reaching out to me for help. And he was like, hey, I started the Nostr devs course, but I don't really know how to code. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a problem because it doesn't really teach you how to code. And so I think I gave him the first PlebDevs course for free. And I have these back and forths with people a lot. They're somewhat interested. We exchange information. Maybe I give them the course or something like that. And, I don't always hear back. But he was one that he came back. He kept coming back. Hey, I learned this. I'm stuck on this. Hey, this is really cool, but I'm stuck on this. And he kept coming back and doing more and doing the workshops. And now it's just I swear, every week he's releasing a new just ridiculous app or game. Really? So
that's amazing.
Yeah, one of the
on Nostr or something or what?
Yeah, some of it's Nostr.
Cool.
Some of it's just he announces a lot of them on Stacker News.
Hell yeah.
And I think Nostr as well. And so the first thing he did is he built a version of the wallet that we built in the course, but he made a Star Trek version of it that looked really, really different and really cool. And I was like, oh my gosh, you went above and beyond with this. And then he actually reskinned Mutiny wallet.
Oh, wow.
On his own. He reskinned it with a pirate theme and pirate music.
Oh, that was the guy? Oh, I saw that post. Yeah.
And your seed words are the treasure map, and it says save your treasure map. Super creative.
That's amazing.
And recently he made some small Flash games in the browser. He made a Nostr client that blocks the word Nostr. It's called it's like Nostr without Nostr or something like that. It's just like literally a Nostr client that will not, show your note if it mentions Nostr.
That's funny.
So he just has like a bunch of random cool creative ideas like that. But I think that that's exactly the way to go. That's a lot more of a strong indication of someone on the learning path versus someone that like, picks up basic skills and then they try and build this Goliath of a project, right? Like, of course, that's what you want to do. That's the end goal you're going towards. But it's really good to just build a lot of example apps and like actually ship stuff that's small enough to where you'll actually do it. You'll actually learn something, and then you're learning how to ship it to people, and people start to remember your name. So I think that's a really good pathway to go on, and he's really embodying that. It's not like any one single project he does is groundbreaking or amazing, but it's that the combination of it, like you see him building and shipping in public, and they're all really cool and clever ideas. And that's another good thing to learn and to flex is like, come up with these clever ideas, these clever solutions. Because that's a lot of what application development is just finding the right ingredients of things to put together.
Yeah, that's such a great idea, because otherwise, you kind of get these skill sets and you kind of go through the tried and true way, I guess, professionally speaking, of like applying for jobs and then not getting in and then wondering why. You just don't have enough stuff that you've shipped maybe, or have enough contributions into the ecosystem. And yeah, and it kind of makes you kind of feel less than of yourself, I would imagine. And then that's when in reality, it's probably just to go and do something epic and just keep shipping things. And it's not going to be quite, a masterpiece or anything, but it'll at least, get your name out there. And as Bitcoiners, we all love to support things that are really freaking cool,
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Do something that you'll actually do and actually end up shipping. Because there's a lot of things in life. The things in life that are hardest to do are things that give you either no feedback or only negative feedback.
Wait, what do you mean? Hang on a second. Give me an example of that.
I mean, like programming. Like when you start learning how to code, you're not getting a lot of positive feedback. Like, okay, maybe you print hello world. It prints hello world. Cool. Like that would be, kind of a positive feedback loop.
Right.
But a lot of it is just, you're getting no feedback whatsoever. It's just like, nothing's happening or things aren't working. You're getting negative feedback.
Right.
And so it's kind of the pain and pleasure thing. Like you're going to move away from pain, move towards pleasure. And so if you're trying to do something hard, you want to do it in such a way to where like you'll come back the next day and take another bite of dirt. You know?
Totally.
Like if you're going to eat dirt, then put a cherry on top or something like that. Like make sure that, you're going to do something small. Like when I go to learn a new language, for example,
you mean like a coding language or something? Or?
Yeah, like a coding language. Like I'm going to do like, okay, let's pull the Bitcoin price from an API and show it on the screen or show it in the terminal, right? Like that's a project I always return to because I know I can, even if I have a terrible time in my session, I'll get it done and I'll be like, sweet, project done, ship it to I just punched the mic. It's okay. Ship it to GitHub and, call it a day. And even if it went terrible, I can feel like kind of okay about myself. It's a W, it's a win. Yeah. Versus if I start on super big, deep tech app and then I get, 50 lines of code deep and then I'm just like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm an idiot. And then I quit.
Yeah.
Right. Negative feedback. So, so that's kind of the path. So someone that's making a lot of small projects, they're shipping them. That's a good pattern to stay in. Because eventually you'll just do something great if you just keep building stuff and shipping it.
Yeah, totally. Because it'll just be things on top of each other that you've been able to use as far as experience. That's one of the things like I've noticed here lately. For me personally, like I feel like I'm at this inflection point where I got to walk into these woods, and these are woods that I've never navigated before, and I know it's going to be extremely hard. And to be honest, I don't really know if I really know how to navigate these woods, but I know that that's the path because every time that I've been at this kind of point in my life before, it always required me to go into the unknown, and it always made me better once I've gone through it. Do you think that's similar in development? Do you think there's something to that, or is it not, maybe it's not scary woods. Maybe it's just more like a neighborhood.
Yeah. I mean, there is an aspect of stepping out into the unknown and like the importance of doing that. I guess it's a different framing than I would think of, but probably still is applicable. How I like to frame it is like the comfort zone, the discomfort zone, and then the panic zone.
Yeah.
Is how I like to describe it. And like, if you're always in the comfort zone, you're not really learning. You're kind of stagnating.
Yeah, totally.
You're actually losing over time. And you want to get into the discomfort zone. The discomfort zone, it doesn't feel that great to step into it, but it's the place where, you know, there's chaos and potential and things are happening, and you'll learn a lesson or two, whether it goes good or not. But then the panic zone, that's like you're way outside of your depths, and you're just doing yourself a disservice, and you're just going to end up like, you know, kind of demoralizing yourself a little bit if you go into the panic zone too much. So yeah, I guess I think of it in that framing, and like the fear, the little bit of edge, that's good. You want a little bit of edge, but you want to keep your bearings at the same time.
Interesting. Yeah. Gosh, dude.
But I don't know.
PlebDevs. PlebDevs. So tell me about the courses and the material and like the cadence of it all. Like what, cause I know you do the Stacker News, like roundup every week on Monday, cause I see you doing it, but all the other stuff, like when does that happen? And how do you relay it to the people that are like, if somebody's listening right now and they're like, yeah, I know Austin, like I know him from whatever I saw him here. How do they go and find out about you? Like, how do they go and follow your schedule, I guess, should say.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little chaotic right now. I'm still figuring it out. And like you mentioned Damien, aka Good Enough, he's been helping me and making content. He's actually been making more content than me lately, shipping these tutorials and stuff like that. But yeah, a lot of people have probably originally heard of PlebDevs from the courses, which are on Udemy and Emeralize. You can find everything at plebdevs.com. But more so lately, it's been the YouTube channel. I've been going a little bit harder on the YouTube channel and trying to grow it and trying to figure out how to make content, whatever that means. But yeah, I mean, I'm still learning. I'm still kind of figuring this out all from the get-go. And so originally it was just like, okay, here's this course. I just want to help people. The people will come. Right. And did the course, and a lot of people got the course. A lot of people were interacting with it, which is like, okay, that's telling me there's something here that's indicating that there's a desire here that people have, but they didn't come knocking down my door asking for help, begging for me to meet with them and like help them with their code, which is kind of what I wanted. Cause my goal, like I said a while ago, like my goal is to get to where people are asking me for help so much that I can't deal with it.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to get there, and I kind of did. I mean, I could be there if I wanted to, like, there's a lot of people to talk to. There's a lot of things that people come to me about, a lot of things I say no to, but I mean, people like my target audience, people that are literally trying to become devs in Bitcoin and Nostr and Lightning. Like those are the people that I'll drop stuff for, that I'll try and make sure that, I can get around to them eventually and help them and encourage them. Just keep them going to the next step at the very least. Yeah. So that's the kind of engagement I was looking for. And so, yeah, the desire was there. The engagement was not there. And it's like, how do I bridge that gap? What does it mean to bridge that gap? And I think that's what a lot of this process running PlebDevs has been figuring out. What do people want? And what can I do? And yeah, so, I did the first course, I did the second course, took a lot longer than I thought. I've done workshops on YouTube. I've done streams. And so I'm kind of in all of those corners of those things. I'm trying to figure out what is the strongest lever, and then what do I like to do the most? And I do really like streaming. So I want to figure out how to get good at streaming and grow a technical coding developer focused stream. And same thing on YouTube. So I'm trying to figure out like how
I think it's a 10,000 hour rule. I think that's what it comes down to really. And there's really no way around it, to be honest. I mean, you could do it faster if you've done it over the course of 3 years and you shrunk that down from like what it would have taken 5 years because you did 8-hour days instead of, 4-hour days or whatever. But
yeah,
I just know from experience, just with learning anything new, as far as like on the creative side, it just takes 10,000 hours and there's really no way around it. I think with the AI stuff, that definitely helps you, but I don't necessarily think that actually solves the problem of the creativity part of it. Like you're still going to need to read the room or read your community and instinctively know where to go because you've been there before. You've seen what happens when you go in the opposite direction of that information that you priorly either exhausted or fully realized. Does that make sense or no?
Yeah. No, and I mean, the AI will help you do busy work, but the realm that we're in, especially in Bitcoin, like it requires first principles thinking, and it also requires an intuition. I mean, depending on what you're doing, an intuition that you can only gain through experience. And I mean, I am trying. Like you're always trying to build up that insight, that intuition, and just the raw skill from 10,000 hours or whatever. And I'm definitely in the middle of the process of that. Like,
you'll get there. I mean, I think it's just you're already around it. You're engulfed in it. If that makes any sense, you're on the front lines of it. So there's just no way where it's inevitable. That's how I look at things sometimes. Like, because you're already living it, you're breathing it, you're consuming it. It's like being in space and like being afraid to take a spacewalk. But over time, as the longer you stay in space, you're like, oh, I'm ready for a walk in space, untethered. Like I feel confident, and I think that's just where it is. It's not even confidence. It's just the muscle memory and all that kind of stuff. And you're already kind of doing it. I mean, people already see you that way. I mean, you got a job at Voltage. What was that like?
That's cool.
Did you expect it? I don't mean it that way, but did you expect that something like an opportunity like that to show up?
No, it was definitely a surprise. Yeah. So that's been another big journey of the last year. Was like, I used to work at Fold for a while, for over a year.
What did you do at Fold again?
I was a front end engineer.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was really my first Bitcoin job, my first job in Bitcoin. And I got laid off about a year ago.
What did you learn from Will and that team that you would, that you still use today? I'm just curious. I just want to know that. Like, what do you think is the number one thing that you learned from that team?
Yeah. I mean, there's so much I learned like personally on like just a personal level of like the experience of being on a development team that I hadn't had before. But, I guess as a whole, and something I learned from Will is being flexible and staying at the pulse of what's happening and just leaning into your advantages. This is something that Will does a lot. I mean, Will really keeps his ear to the ground and he keeps an eye on what's cutting edge and what's happening in Bitcoin, even though people might not see that on the surface. But he realizes what Fold is and what Fold's advantages are and leans into them. And so kind of just matching your current position and what you have versus what's happening in the field and what's happening in the market. And this has allowed Fold to weather many rough periods of time where they were able to come out the other side with kind of a new breath of life. And I think that they've really, not that Fold has gone through a super horribly rough time over the last year and a half, but now they're definitely breathing new life with like their new get on zero feature, like kind of making the Fold this almost Bitcoin neobank that allows you to spend your Bitcoin as fiat and spend your fiat as Bitcoin and vice versa. And so that's a really cool feature set that they were able to add on and build out that's really unique in the space. And so
I think that's one of the things I keep seeing, like the more founders and the more builders in Bitcoin that I interview and talk to and be around with, I've just come to realize that a lot of building a Bitcoin company or a Bitcoin project is just phases. And you reach an inflection point where you have to go to the next stage. And those timelines are usually typically want them to be like 18 to 24 months or somewhere around there, around evaluation time or whatever, whenever you're raising. But typically though, you do see these kind of phased rollouts to get you to the next stage that you're supposed to be. So it's interesting to hear you say that, because it kind of falls in line with that kind of thing I've been thinking in my head for a while about phases to a Bitcoin project or a Bitcoin company. And you see a lot of really great companies in the ecosystem kind of follow similar trajectories as far as reaching the end to that phase and saying, okay, we have to go here now. It's kind of like a J curve in a lot of ways. It's not meant to be that way. It just happenstance, I guess. And then it's like phase one, cool, you get it to this point. And then how do you get to the next thing? And that's where it's like that inflection point. It's like you have to go up, right?
Yeah, and that phase shift is usually painful. And
totally.
usually, in fact, like that phase shift is kind of why I got laid off, right? Like, and that's why you kind of, maybe you don't want to start a startup, and maybe you don't want to work at a startup, because if you start a startup, you're gonna have to fire the people you love, and if you work at a startup, you're gonna have to, get laid off at some point. I mean, most likely, like almost all of our friends that have worked at startups and Bitcoin companies, like we've all been laid off at one point and let down. And so that's a part of the game that you're in. And so you got to understand that. But, I always believed in Fold. I continue to do so. And really it was good. They let me go.
Yeah. So learning that, and then, applying to Voltage, and then, talk about that. Talk about the whole process with Voltage now, and like how you came about that opportunity and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, I recognized right after I started PlebDevs, and I realized that, like, wow, I want to communicate about Bitcoin development. I want to get more developers building on Bitcoin. I want to be that bridge for the absolute beginners. Like I was kind of realizing that, and I was like, what are the most important projects for the PlebDevs? The most important companies? And immediately Voltage came to mind. So this was like 2 years ago. And I started just becoming obsessed with Voltage. And I was like, Voltage is, a real silver bullet when it comes to reducing the friction to building Bitcoin apps, and running a Bitcoin project, a Bitcoin startup, whatever. That infrastructure is really important. And if you don't know what Voltage does, voltage.cloud, they just help you spin up Lightning nodes, and very soon Bitcoin Core nodes. Well, we already have Bitcoin Core nodes, but we're about to improve the experience. And basically they let you spin it up in the cloud in a very traditional, cloud computing type of environment, but it's all encrypted with your own keys. So it's non-custodial. You can spin up a node on Voltage. You could use it for a while, and you can actually exit with all of your information, run it on your own hardware if you want, right? So we don't lock you in. Voltage does not lock you in. Voltage is non-custodial, but they give you that easy experience of spinning up a node. You don't need to worry about it. It's always online, and they give you easy tools for interfacing with it, which if you're going to build Bitcoin and Lightning apps, you need to be interfacing with a Bitcoin or a Lightning node, right? That is the big new scary thing that's not the norm in a normal tech stack for an application. So I just really saw that like Voltage was important for that, but not only like the individuals, the devs, but just companies in general, which is a lot of Voltage's focus right now, is like just helping companies become Bitcoin companies with one integration. So I saw this early on, and I knew that like I'm very interested in Voltage, but it was just kind of one of those things that the right position hadn't come along. And when I got laid off, I sat on my hands for a while, for about 7 or 8 months, and I didn't apply to any jobs, which is really bad advice for most people. But it turned out to be very important for me, because in that time a lot of growing, a lot of experimenting, a lot of thinking and finding out like what is going to be my next my next point of leverage and what I'm trying to do. And also realizing that even though there's opportunities, there were jobs I could have gotten.
Yeah, totally.
I was like,
I remember
these people don't want to hire me. I'm a bad employee. Like they would make a mistake
some
for
big
hiring
names. Yeah, it was interesting. Like I'm just not gonna share anything, but yeah, I remember that time. I remember thinking, I was like, dude, you can get a job anywhere you want. I mean, like you're freaking Austin, and you were like, yeah, but I don't want that one. I was like, dude, but it's so and so, you know. But you always, I do. We'll say this. I mean, shout out to Voltage, but I mean, it was interesting because at the time they weren't even hiring for a position, and you were like, I want to work at Voltage. I remember thinking, I was like, well, keep dreaming, kid.
Yeah,
but it ended up happening.
Yeah, no, I mean, they dropped this position, developer relations engineer, which is the position I now have, and the day I saw it, I was like, I actually think Keon saw it and told me about it.
Oh, okay.
I dropped literally everything I was doing and built a resume and a portfolio that day.
Wow.
And then applied to it. Because I just knew that like this is beyond perfect because this is a role that's about being the bridge, about being the developer that's also communicating and that's like helping empower other developers and empower companies to like, you know,
totally
build on Bitcoin to become Bitcoin companies. So I just knew it was perfect, and like I had to convince them to hire me.
Well, I mean, dude, they have such a. I mean, I've always talked about this about Voltage on the pod, but they have been big champions of PlebLab and everything that we come out of here. I mean, I couldn't ask for a much more wonderful company in the ecosystem. I mean, they're probably that way to everybody, but I mean, that's just my firsthand experience with them. And then also, dude, like. I mean, is there another? I mean, technically, I would say like if Voltage didn't exist, like I don't know what Bitcoin would do. To be honest, like it's such a vital part of the ecosystem, especially the startup and the builder ecosystem. I would say, yeah, it's kind of interesting how like, yeah, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, if Voltage disappeared overnight, it would be a painful couple of months for a lot of Bitcoin companies. But so what's cool about Bitcoin, like, you know, Bitcoin could exist and Lightning could exist without Voltage, but it's just that like
makes things easier.
Solving that, most critical point of friction it's really helpful to a lot of people. It's been helpful to me. It's accelerated, you know, to be able to skip past this step of setting up infrastructure and development environment and just get right into the action of Lightning and moving money with code. It was a huge lever for me, and it helped me accelerate my own journey. So yeah, it's definitely an important feature set. And I mean, man, like Graham as like a founder, he's, you know, such a great person to have as a leader. I don't like having to have leaders that I follow, but you know, how lucky I've been to work. Well, for one, like for Will at Fold, he's an amazing leader in the space, and now Graham.
Totally.
That each, you know, have their own unique advantages. But what's so great about Graham is that he's an actual builder himself. He's someone that like you can at Voltage, you can go to the CEO with the most technical question.
Wow.
That's
incredible.
But, you know, at the same time, he's on sales calls and he speaks, and he's just built the product that he wanted and he needed himself, and has like gone through the steps to scale it out, and has just been this consistent figure, and is very humble, very unassuming. But if you really talk to him, you see like the experience this guy has is ridiculous. So yeah, I mean, I'm very bullish on Voltage. Yeah, just mainly for the team. And like we've met many of the team members over the years, and they're just core members of the Bitcoin community. Just for such a small company. I mean, Voltage really has great brand presence and great clout in the Bitcoin community.
Yeah, totally. I mean, love all those people at Voltage. There's so many to name, but I can think of multiple times at multiple like developer conferences or just at different meetups or something where if I'm talking to somebody for a really long time, it's probably somebody from Voltage. Do you know what I mean? And it's not just by design, it's just the type of people they hire there are just like really high quality, high caliber people. It's unbelievable. the team that he's been able to assemble. Is there one thing that you've now that you're on this side of of seeing Voltage from the inside and stuff like that you didn't recognize before? I mean, obviously the Graham stuff and everything like that, but is there something where you're like, dude, I had no idea they were like, and like, is there something that you can think of where you're just like, I thought it was like this, and actually it turns out this is like completely like turned my world upside down, maybe, or maybe nothing that major, but something that you just like really appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I really appreciate now being on the other side. For one, appreciate how small of I say small of an operation. It seems so much bigger when you're on the outside.
Okay.
And now being on the inside, I appreciate that, like, wow, this is a startup. This is a lot of people's like blood, sweat, and tears that go into it. And yeah, I mean, it's very much still a product that's iterating very fast. So, that is something to appreciate in multiple ways. But another thing is just like the trade-offs that Voltage has made along the way that were, from a business perspective, unnecessary. But I think make it to where if Voltage was slightly different, like I wouldn't work at Voltage. For example, if they were like fully custodial. And so that's a big thing, is like the design of it from the ground up is this non-custodial nature. It's like giving you the convenience of being in the cloud and having that easy deployment that, people help you manage, but at the same time holding the keys yourself, being able to unilaterally exit. Voltage, still you can sign up with only an email. I mean, like Voltage can be so private sometimes that people use Voltage to attack Voltage, or people use Voltage to attack Voltage customers with with the Voltage nodes. So this is, it's just signs of trade-offs that are made off of principle. And there's a lot of other small things that Voltage tries to do to like just protect their users and respect users and respect the giving people ease of use, but also just respecting their privacy and treating them as sovereign. So I guess those are some of the things I really appreciate, and just all of the people that Voltage has touched in the background that use Voltage. And so
totally. I mean, we use Voltage here at PlebLab, and I don't know a better way of doing it. I mean, I think we tried maybe RNO back in 21, but it was just clearly obvious like Voltage is the way. But I don't see myself ever changing from that. Like if there was another XYZ company that spun up tomorrow with the exact same thing as I don't know if I would ever move to that, if that makes any sense. Like I already have the built-in relationships and like the love and knowing kind of what you're explaining to me, like, oh no, I'd rather put my money behind something like that.
Yeah.
That's somebody I can grow with over time as far as like a business.
I mean, I honestly think the ideal future for Bitcoin is that in 10 years, Voltage only has enterprise customers, right? Plebs don't need to use Voltage. All the plebs are running their nodes on their own hardware at the Citadel.
Let's talk about, let's jump into the Lightning stuff now that we kind of covered everything.
Okay.
What is going on? What is going on with the Lightning space? I think there's a lot of hot takes out there. There's a lot of hot takes in the lab, whether they're true or not. What is your take on the whole Lightning /L2/L2 version 2/L3/ what is going on in Lightning from your perspective? I don't want anybody else's perspective. I want to know, like, how do you see the Lightning space right now? And where do you think we're headed?
Well, from a technical standpoint, things are, pretty simple and slightly bullish. Development continues. The number of nodes on the network and capacity on the network continues to go up. And various improvements have been shipped. We're getting closer to Bolt 12. We have things like splicing that was added in Core Lightning. We have LDK making significant improvements on like blinded paths, getting towards Bolt 12. So, just a lot of those technical things are getting taken care of. It seems if all you had was that kind of information, things would seem pretty normal and pretty boring. But what has actually really changed is, I think, the sentiment and how people see Lightning and Lightning wallets. And yeah, I mean, gosh, how would you describe it? I mean, for one, Lightning arrived on the scene as this promise, this solution to Bitcoin scaling problems. You can't buy coffee with Bitcoin. Well, now with Lightning, you can, right? And then we're in the experimentation phase, and people start running Lightning for the first time, mainly very technical people running Lightning nodes, and then eventually more plebs start running Lightning, and then you have stuff like Umbrel and MyNode and Raspberry Blitz, these node packages that are easy to set up. They start coming on the scene, and more people are running Lightning nodes now, more plebs, and okay, Lightning's kind of just growing, and then wallets start coming on the scene. Breeze wallet of Satoshi, and Zeus. Zeus was pretty early, and yeah, so people start experimenting and playing around with it, and the whole time there's these limitations within Lightning that we're able to not think about in that period of where we're playing with the software, using it for the first time, running it for the first time. And a lot of what people were not understanding was fee rates and how that will scale in the different kinds of fee environments that we might be in. And the fact that to onboard on a Lightning, to have a Lightning channel, you need to hit the chain once to open a channel, hit the chain again to close a channel. And that's not such a trivial thing anymore, or it's becoming less and less trivial over time. So I think we're running into these natural limitations of Lightning, but we're doing it with a much bigger ecosystem that wants to use and is relying on Lightning. And amidst also now the regulatory pressure that's come down from like the DOJ going after Samurai, we see Phoenix shutting down. We saw Wallet of Satoshi, they shut down kind of early to get ahead of it, to not be custodians. And then like Alby is now much harder to onboard onto. You need to have invite codes. And so a lot of these custodial, easy to use wallets, they're shutting down, they're becoming more difficult to use. And then all of these users that thought they were using Lightning are now realize like, wait, I wasn't actually on Lightning, I was on a custodial wallet. And now what it takes to actually get on Lightning from zero is immense. Got to run a node, got to connect to that node, got to open a channel, have to have inbound liquidity. And, a lot of people didn't understand these things in the first place. And so now comes eCash. eCash is like showing up as a solution to kind of be the gum in between the gaps of Lightning and the issues that Lightning has with UX. And so we see Mutiny going very hard into, eCash and Mutiny also, I guess this is one thing to mention, and like how I see Lightning is Mutiny did the hard thing that everyone wanted, which is we're gonna make running a Lightning node, going from zero to sovereign Lightning user, we're gonna make it as easy as it could possibly be. And they actually worked with Voltage to do this with Flow 2.0. You can get channels very easily through your Mutiny wallet, right? And if you don't know how Mutiny wallet works, it essentially like you spin up Mutiny wallet and you're running a node on your phone. And then all you have to do is worry about the channel management and the basic stuff. And even with this great solution, it still just wasn't quite enough for people. It's still too difficult. It's still wrought with a lot of issues. It's painful building on Lightning for a number of reasons, especially on mobile. And the mobile use cases where something like Lightning really takes off. So yeah, the best possible sovereign Lightning wallet node on a phone, even that, from the people that build it themselves, it's not enough. And then now we're in the world of eCash, and what is there to say about that? There's a million things to say about that, but we're trying to fill in all of these gaps and have a full tech stack that is allows us to send Bitcoin in whatever units we want in a self-sovereign way, have it all interoperate, and have it be easy for new users so we can onboard new users. And I think that a lot of people's expectations of Lightning have been crushed. A lot of people are choosing sides of, the narrative when it comes to Lightning or eCash, or other L2s. We've got Liquid. Liquid is more popular than ever. We've got BitVM now, and people are building new L2s on BitVM. There's the promise of Arc. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's literally, I don't know, to even like set up what I think about what's going on. It's like so much to mention, but all of that to say, it's an important time to be building on this, on these protocols, to be understanding them, to be building on them, to be trying them out. Because the future of what Bitcoin will look like for the average person and how we use it every day and how it integrates into our apps, that future is being laid out right now in front of our faces. And it's kind of crazy to see it and be a part of it. And even eCash, eCash is this old idea that's being resurrected. It's this idea from the 80s that now has new life breathed into it through Bitcoin and through Lightning. And so it's a very exciting time. It's the time to combine ideas. It's the time to discover old ideas that are forgotten. And, so I guess in a lot of ways, I'm a passive observer. I mean, I'm participating in some ways. I've built stuff with eCash. I built stuff with Lightning, with Bitcoin, but I'm very undecided. I'm just watching and hearing all the sides and trying to figure out in real time, what is this going to look like? What is Bitcoin for the average person? Bitcoin for apps, Bitcoin for the web. What is it going to look like? And updating my model in real time. So, man, like, what can you say? Like, what is your perspective?
I would just ask you, like, are you more bearish towards Lightning or bullish, or do these extra technologies make things more, or I guess I should say adjacent technologies make things more bullish for Lightning or less bullish?
I mean, it muddies the water a little bit. When I knew less and I had less experience, I could just tell people that like, yeah, Lightning fixes this. Lightning's going to solve all this. That was a lot easier than where I am now, where like I've actually faced reality. So I think it muddies the water, but, I mean, I go back and forth. Like, I'm still very bullish on Lightning. And the thing is, like, the Lightning hasn't been invalidated at all, or its properties. Its properties are very strong. It's an amazing 10 out of 10 trade-off.
Right.
And so that stands true. But when it comes to the problem we thought we were solving, that's actually a much, much bigger problem. And we're still going to be working on it for, probably 10 years. And it's also worth mentioning Lightning is not finished. Lightning is not close to being finished. But here we are already building on top of it and connecting it with eCash, and, exchanges are adding it. And now Lightning is a super weird interoperable layer. You can send eCash over it and you can make tap ass on it, and you can, go between Coinbase to PayPal. Well, PayPal doesn't have Lightning, but Coinbase has it. And like, so it's a really weird and exciting time. And I mean, for some people it might be exhausting. For me, I find it exciting, and
Do you think that's just kind of where we're at right now in Lightning's history, is just that we're just at the point of, hey, we have all these now solutions to a problem that necessarily probably doesn't need fixing, or maybe it does. And then that Lightning is just going to take, it's just a 10-year arc or 20-year arc. That's just going to take that much time for us to, or for the people to figure all these solutions out, to see where they fit, or you think that you can have these solutions while continuously building on Lightning? It seems like that's where it's kind of going now. It's just like, there's going to be multiple solutions. If anything, there's going to be another version of eCash, multiple versions of eCash, multiple versions of Arc probably, and multiple versions of all these other adjacent technologies that probably are going to ride the Lightning network. Do you think that's just kind of where it's headed? It kind of seems that's where it's actually going, is just that
I think that Yeah, it's going to be a bunch of different solutions, which is good. Like you want as many trade-offs as possible. Like that's a good thing, but at the same time, it makes things confusing. I think that I'm seeing Lightning as it's more of a foundational layer than I first thought it was.
Yeah.
And I think that's what eCash is showing us. You know, it's this foundational layer that connects Bitcoin payment channels with other protocols, right? Such as maybe, you know, like what Jim is doing, like L42. Like it's this foundational layer for blocking API endpoints or for gating API endpoints and charging for them. Or for eCash, like Lightning is the highway that eCash travels when it's going between mints or between different wallets. You know, there could easily be a future. I was joking about this with someone the other day. Like one of us needs to be the one to make eCash, right? An eCash mint on ETH. So then we can turn ETH into an even, like we can make another shitcoin on ETH.
Oh my God.
But no, I mean, really, like you could have a future where like you're trading between Sats and Solana over eCash rails.
Who would ever make
and
that
like
trade?
some weird, I don't know. But it's like this stuff is possible. So you're realizing all of these really, really weird things that are possible and all of these different kinds of gray areas that you can create and trade-offs that you can create. And it's like, okay, wow, way more is possible now. There's way more gradients of different trade-offs you can have. Way different kind of solutions you can deliver. So what are people going to build and what's going to survive and stand? What are going to be the killer apps? What's going to blow up and get rugged? And so that is what we are going to see over the next 5 to 10 years. I think really, the next 5 years is going to be the rapid development chaos iterations that happen on Lightning and Bitcoin. But if you're already in the know, you can kind of ignore all that shit and you can just be a based ass Bitcoiner like Nick and just have some fat UTXOs and a few fat channels on your pleb node. And when you need to spend, you'll spend from your own node and use Lightning and then you'll just stack fat UTXOs. And like that's a great way to operate and you don't need to screw around with any of the other stuff, honestly.
Yeah, it's a fascinating time. I think for me, I think last year is when kind of started putting all the pieces together as far as like how they were framing eCash as like this bare asset of like just as good as Bitcoin. And to me, that just never vibed right. If anything, that was just an absolute lie. And the more and more that narrative started kind of spinning, I was like, okay, yeah, we definitely need to talk about this. Maybe no one wants to talk about it, but I think for me and I think it was good conversations to have at the beginning of the year because it got other people also talking about it. So I think now where it sits is kind of the framing it should have had the entire time, as it's just this token that is redeemable for Bitcoin in a federation, which...
Well, if you're using Fedimint, not Cashew.
Yeah, who even knows what that is? I have no idea what the nuts are, but it to me, like, to me, it's just, it's all that stuff I think the way I look at it now, it's just like, just let the builders build. I don't see any solution yet that actually works. It sounds like the Fedi stuff works, but I just want to, I just want to keep using Lightning and keep using Bitcoin and that's it. I don't want to know like what's going on behind the scenes, if that makes any sense. Just like a lot of plebs didn't know what was going behind the scenes of Wallet of Satoshi. Now they know.
Well, they should have known because enough people were yelling about it.
Well, this kind of
almost
goes
obnoxiously.
This kind of goes back to narrative spinning, right? And like, who knows? I don't know what the narrative was when Wallet of Satoshi came out, but it was. This is why you should have these absolute truths, like at the beginning of a launch or something, just like letting people know what they're actually getting into. And I think it's good that we're having these conversations around the eCash and the ARC stuff and the Liquid stuff. Is letting people know what they're actually opting into is the first thing, I think.
Well, here's something I'll say coming back full circle is like break through the narratives and understand the fundamentals yourself, right? And you don't need to be a dev to do it. Maybe being a dev helps extra, but like run the software, figure out the software, understand it for yourself and develop your own opinion. Because I'll tell you, even though the narrative, how it is right now around Lightning, my personal narrative of Lightning was broken over a year ago.
Really? When?
It was just over time. It was when I started developing on Lightning apps and thinking about, just these scaling issues with Lightning and how difficult it is, and the fact that some of these UX problems are almost somewhat unsolvable, and that it requires a lot of response. And it was just realizing that like I had this perception of Lightning that was completely a narrative, and now I was staring the fundamentals in the face. And then from there, I broke through the narrative and I developed my own opinion from first principles, right? And that's where you really want to get with all of this stuff is like, ignore it all if you want to. Ignore all that noise because maybe you don't need to. Maybe you're just sitting on a bunch of fat UTXOs. You don't need to worry about all this bullshit. But if you are, then, maybe look at what narratives are around, but gain your own understanding of it. I think that is, super important to do because people are just going to rug you with these narratives again and again. And you're going to be let down again and again. And if you understand it, then you have an advantage. And here's another thing I'll say, despite all of this somewhat bearish sentiment, on the other side of the coin, I just went to Consensus a few weeks back.
What's Consensus again? I don't know what that is.
Consensus is the largest shitcoin conference in the world.
Oh.
It's the biggest crypto conference.
So it's a scammer conference.
Sort of, except for Voltage, which was there. And I was there with Voltage, and we were kind of sponsored. They're partnered with Google.
But scammers speak at this conference?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, lots of them.
So it's pay to play conference, it sounds like.
It's pay to play conference. Everyone's tokenizing. Everyone's making their own blockchain. Everyone, it's just so far from understanding Bitcoin that you could possibly imagine. But after talking to these people all week, it really gave me this sense of like, oh my gosh, we have such an edge on them. What we can do on, like, first of all, like we know that Bitcoin is fundamentally better. It has better foundations. It has better properties.
Right.
But how we can deliver those properties in different applications, in different formats, in different protocols. We have such an advantage. I mean, the kinds of things you can do now, we just don't have enough builders exploring all these things. But, with Lightning, with eCash, even with inscriptions and runes, if that's your thing, just the amount of stuff that we could build that wasn't possible, and that it's all on Bitcoin or interoperating with Bitcoin in some way. I mean, these people are still, they're on layer one, just fumbling over themselves, like absolutely
Really?
Tripping over themselves.
Like they're still using like all these other poo-poo coins?
Yeah, like Ethereum and I think Solana, maybe like they have layer twos.
People still build on those things?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, of course.
Why?
There's probably more builders than in Bitcoin. But we just have such better, I think, technology, and we have a huge information advantage. That was just the sense I got from this conference. And so it made me feel very bullish, like, wow, we have a lot of tools at our disposal. There's a lot of amazing things we can do while these kids are still playing in the sandbox. Like we're out here dealing with real difficult problems. And I mean, some of these problems, some of these scalability issues with Bitcoin, or I don't know, different problems in Lightning that we're dealing with. Some of these problems are as old as time kind of problems, Yeah. They're very, very deep fundamental problems that need reconciling in some kind of way, need some kind of trade-off. And Bitcoiners, we go right to the hard problems a lot of times. And I really believe in the developers and the tools and technologies we have right now. I see the potential, and it makes me extremely bullish. And I see that, we're, I think, pursuing it in the right way, which is 100 different ways at once, and arguing about it and destroying each other over it. And that is the pathway to a resilient, a resilient tech stack in the future.
Yeah, it makes us stronger. I think the biggest thing is like you got to be able to have honest, truthful conversations. I think it starts there, and I think there's been quite some time since I've been in the space where no one wants to have honest and true conversations. And I'm like, no, let's just talk about it. Even the stuff that's gross, let's just be honest with each other what we're trying to do here. I think we all are headed towards the same destination. I think we just because we're Bitcoiners, we're going to take our ball and go build our own basketball court. We're just naturally like that as Bitcoiners. But I do think there needs to be a meeting of the minds and have real conversations based on reality. It starts from there, and then how we get there, I think we're all going to figure it out along the way. And
man, something will happen.
Something will happen. I think it's overall good. It's kind of like we were talking about the government earlier, and like, what's going to happen when Bitcoin, can you have one or the other, Bitcoin or the government, and like, how does that work together? And if does that work together, or will they come after Bitcoin or stuff like that? It's all these crazy conversations we have inside of PlebLab.
Yeah. All you can really do, and I try to have this mindset, is just really be very freaking humbled by the fact that we don't know what's going to happen, and what's occurring in the world and what's occurring with Bitcoin and what's possible is just has such wide reaching implications that you just got to be humbled by it. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, things could get very crazy very easily, or be boring for a really long time. And maybe actually Bitcoin and Lightning and all of this, maybe all of this just ends up being kind of like a boring development process over the next 10 years. Yeah. That would be kind of nice. I sort of hope that happens. But man, just, a lot of possibilities are happening.
Yeah, maybe it's just kind of like Linux, right? Just so many different flavors and same kernel, I guess, or something.
Exactly. Who could have predicted if you were, a few years into the Linux revolution, could you have predicted what the world would look like today? No way. So I think we're very much in the same position.
Yes.
So
Somebody will make the Ubuntu at some point that everybody will onboard. That everybody will onboard first before they jump into these other flavors. It makes sense, kind of. Who knows? I want to say I do think with the whole Apple stuff and the AI, I don't know. Do you pay attention to the AI stuff or no? Not really.
Yeah.
You say like what did you think about the whole Apple intelligence stuff?
That's bad.
It's bad. Why is it bad?
It's just like more and more thresholds are being crossed. In a sense, that threshold has already been crossed because that data valve has already been opened, having OpenAI being able to train on data directly from your phone, that's a threshold that will be crossed. And then the next threshold will be your physical body, the data in your physical body, which some people have already crossed that threshold. What's your HRV? What's your heart rate variability, right? What is, there's all of these biometric data points that are already being pulled into the cloud that people have from wearables. That's another threshold to be crossed. And so I think that it's a dangerous thing. And I think that you if AI is going to be training on your data, you want that to be an AI that you control, a data set that you control at the very least.
So you're saying we need like a self-sovereign AI stack is what you're saying as Bitcoiners? That's
what I've been saying for years. That's the
what does that look like? What does that look like?
Server rack in your garage.
On-prem. Honestly, that's where I'm trying to get us PlebLab here in general. I want to get us on-prem servers and all that kind of stuff at some point.
Yeah.
In this next year.
That'd be cool. That's AI.
This is stuff that I used to do back in my other job.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's not that hard.
Yeah, no, in a sense, it's amazingly simple.
It's just very expensive to maintain. That's the thing.
Exactly. There's a lot of overhead.
DevOps.
And so that's a hard problem. None of these AI companies, they don't want to solve this hard but important problem. But the reality is AI is a tool that can be something that is extremely centralizing and oppressive because it is top down. It has a lot of incentives to deploy it top down and to capture people's data and congregate. But as a tool, it can also allow you to rely on intermediaries less. It can allow you to require less trust of the outer world and the internet, right? Because if I'm running my own AI that I control, it's trained on my data.
Right.
I'm in full control. All of a sudden, the surveillance systems that I would need to refer to for information, I no longer need to refer to them, right? So it's something they can actually give me more independence or do the exact opposite,
Right.
which is, it's a very interesting technology for that reason. Peter Thiel, Peter Thiel, he wrote the new foreword to the Sovereign Individual, and he mentions in the foreword that basically he sees different technologies on the scale of like being heavily libertarian and being heavily communist, or being very American and being very China-based. And he sees that on the opposite ends of the spectrum is cryptography and AI. AI being on the side of ultimate centralization and cryptography being on the side of ultimate decentralization. But what happens when you have both of those? What happens if you use AI with cryptography and you control it, with self-hosting and with controlling your own data, right? So that's another thing it's this nuanced thing I think about a lot. And I think it can be very empowering for people. But in the short term, it's going to do the opposite.
I actually think I've been thinking a lot. What's funny that you bring up that Peter Thiel quote, because I've been thinking a lot about this lately, and it probably started right around consensus. And I forget who it was I was talking to. I think it was just like some shitcoiner that came in the lab, and we were talking about things. And then it was at that point I kind of had this like idea of like, oh, maybe this is where it's actually headed. I don't know, dude. I do think we are getting close to a point, and maybe it was this week, or maybe it's next week, who knows? I do think there are two different divergent paths now for humanity. And I do think there's going to be this one path where it kind of describes what Thiel is describing as far as like the communistic path. And I think that's just, doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad for America or bad for technology or anything, but it is this different path than most people are comfortable with. And then I think what happens is, I think we're kind of already seeing it just amongst Bitcoin companies and Bitcoiners in general, is you're just going to have these other group of people that are going to make the same future. It's just going to be different. But I do think what comes out of that is probably the future that a lot of us envision as a child. And the future that these other people are building, the Apples and the Googles and the Microsofts, doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to be able to coexist with the other future that the Bitcoiners or some of these other cryptographic that you described individuals are going to, or self-sovereign individuals are going to be building, are going to be different. It's just going to be a different form of future that I think most people aren't going to agree with. And I think that's how we get to maybe the fundamentals of like flying cars and stuff like that. And some of these other technologies that these other individuals aren't necessarily looking at to build, because they're more focused on the AI stuff. And I think it's maybe it's the future that a lot of us actually want to build, are these like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I guess I'm trying to say it's gonna look more of a based reality. Not base is the wrong word, but it's gonna be more of a practical, empowering reality. And I think there's just these two different paths. I know the path that I'm building on looks more of like on that reality than it does on the communistic side. And I do think there are people that are waking up to these two opposing, maybe not the opposing, maybe they go like this, make a Y, and then maybe they come back around. But I do think that is happening, because I know the direction that I'm building at is not the same direction as the other opposing side. I don't know. What do you think? Is that crazy talk?
I think it's like we wanted flying cars. We just didn't realize we had to fundamentally fix the money for the whole planet before we could get flying cars.
Probably. I'll settle for a hoverboard.
Yeah,
I'll settle for a hoverboard. But I think the people that are going to build these things aren't going to be on the other, aren't going to be, well, maybe I'm not going to say aren't, but I do think I think those people are going to come from this segment of these two divergent paths, because I think they're fundamentally going to be building two different world views or world. And I think that we're already kind of doing that.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like the pioneer mindset versus the politician mindset. It's like there's a bunch of politicians that want to rein everything in and redistribute and control.
it's very,
The pioneers, they just want to be free. They want to
and you're kind
go
of
find new wealth, new ways to thrive, new ways to give their kids a better life than they have. And so,
and I think by the end of the century, they probably come together. I think they do because they see both sides and they probably need both sides. And I think that's I don't know if anybody's written that book before or written that essay, but I do think that the more and more time I spend, the more and more I realize is that's kind of where it's going. And I'm slowly becoming comfortable with that reality of like, oh no, that's okay. And that means that both sides will be fine. Doesn't necessarily mean that one side's going to win or the other side's going to lose. It just means that that's just kind of how it's going to be playing out. And that's just kind of the world that I think we're headed towards. But I could be wrong. Could be wrong.
yeah, I mean, we have a chance to build a future for ourselves at least. And that's what's cool. I mean, what I think the Bitcoin community, the Bitcoin movement is so strong that no matter what happens in the wider world, we can carve out good lives for ourselves. And that's what, makes me really bullish is like all of this, the end, this is all about a deeper thing. One of my favorite questions to ask people lately at Bitcoin conferences is like, what do you want to, when all of this is over, what do you want to do? It's like, and I like to ask this to devs, especially like, you're not a Bitcoin dev anymore. You've achieved it all. You have it all. You have all your time on your hands, like, what do you want to do? And I love the answers that people give me. It'll be surprising.
What do they say?
I remember, Rob from Anchor Watch, without skipping a beat, he was like, I want to open an ice cream shop. He's like, my family knows how to make really good ice cream. I know what makes good ice cream. I would open an ice cream shop. And, he's probably half joking, but it's like, I see that under the surface, there's that, interest of just like, I want to make ice cream. For me, I want to make jams. I want to make homemade jams.
What's that? Like music?
Like, no, preserves, like jams, jelly.
Oh, jelly. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know
That's just a random thing that, it's just this ideal I have in my head. One day, I'm going to make jams. I used to do leather working.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I would want to get back into that. I like woodworking a lot. And it's like, that's what and of course, raise my family, have a happy family, all of that. But it's like, that's what this is all really for is like, I don't want to be a Bitcoin hacker necessarily. I mean, no, I do. I like it. It's fun. But the end game is, I want to be at peace. I want to make my jams.
Yeah. That's fascinating. All right, let's jump into rapid fire. I got 3 questions for you.
Okay.
All right. What's an interesting book that you've read lately that you think could benefit others that you want to share? Or it doesn't mean to be lately, but just one that you go back to time and time again. It doesn't need to be like a perfect one.
Yeah. No, I was just talking about one recently and I'm trying to remember what it was.
It's okay if it's the Mandibles. That's fine.
Yeah, I did read the Mandibles recently. That is true. But I'll say one I actually returned to I think is important is the Screw Tape Letters. That's a book I've returned to my whole life.
Which one is it called?
The Screw Tape Letters.
Screw Tape Letters.
It's by C.S. Lewis. And it's a book about a more senior demon named Screwtape who's communicating with his nephew named Wormwood. And they're basically scheming on how to get this guy's life off track, right? So they're actively working on kind of, every demon is kind of assigned a person to like try and get their soul into hell or whatever.
Wow.
But the reason, there's obviously strong religious themes in it, but it's a very interesting book. I think it's worth reading. And I think that it's a good book to read and realize that this is how AI works on a lot of modern implementations of AI. It's like a demon that's assigned to you that is designed to get you to appeal to the lower parts of yourself, the lower desires of your being.
It's paganism.
Sort of, yeah. So sorry, deep convoluted.
Dude, I'm going to check that out.
It's a short book.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I think I know I personally experienced that, but you definitely see that in the Bitcoin space and just probably just in life in general. There's always people trying to throw you off track to where you're trying to go. I do think it's the other way too. I can think of good people that have come into my life that threw me on the right track too. So I think there's some balance there maybe. I don't know. In the book, do they talk about the good too or just prove that?
They talk about the good too. It's definitely like, I think the lesson is for me that I take away is that psychological war and spiritual war are very closely associated, and it's worth paying attention to both of them.
Totally. All right. Second question is, what's the name of your band and where can we listen to the music? And why is it not on Wavelake?
I don't know. I'm too lazy to put on Wavelake, I guess, but my band is called The Tooth. You can find The Tooth on Spotify or Apple Music or any of the popular whatever distribution channels. You can find the Bandcamp at thetoothokc.bandcamp.com. That was my band that I was in for 10 plus years. That was like my whole life before I got into Bitcoin. It's a metalcore band. And we're actually practicing right now to play our very last final show after about 12 years in July in Oklahoma City.
How much are the tickets?
$12.
Wow. Dude, I want to check that
and
out.
we argued.
What is it going to be?
We argued because some of my bandmates thought that was too expensive. That's what kind of grassroots world we come from.
Oh man. DIY culture. It's hard to.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was I going to say? When is the date?
July 13th is the
July
date of the
13th.
show.
Okay. It's cool.
Yeah.
Is it going to be live streamed, you think? Probably not.
Wait, is that really July 13th? Damn, that's coming up quick. There will be videos and stuff like that.
Cool. That's awesome. All right. And then the third thing, what is the single most thing you're bullish on this cycle? It doesn't need to even be in Bitcoin. It can just be in general. And definitely try to get as niche as you can. Sorry, that's a lot to ask, but super bullish on this coming cycle.
I mean, I guess this will be my personal opinion, my hot take. I'm bullish on humanity. Why? I think that there's such strong contrast right now. I think that things are so chaotic and so ridiculous, and they seem so evil. What's going on in the world, and I think that will have a natural counterbalance from humanity. And I think that really a lot of people, they're seeing what's happening in the world and they're being called to step up and be the strong men that bring about good times. So I'm really bullish on that. And like, you know, a lot of the Christian like parents and boomers, like that I talk to back home, they all literally think the world is ending. They think that Jesus is coming back soon. And I'm like, look, I can't believe that. Like, I'm trying to have a family. I'm trying to like live a life. You really are just giving up and you think that like, oh, the world's ending. Like Jesus is going to come. Like, no, we are trending towards complete chaos, and we're going to have a resurgence, and we're going to bounce back up, and it's going to be, you know, a brighter future again, I think. That's what makes me bullish. I think that the people in my generation, a lot of the people my age, are seeing what's happening, and they're realizing that, like, man, we gotta step up and make things better. And there's a divine responsibility on all of our shoulders. And I think that that's what makes people step up to do truly great things that are beyond themselves. And so I'm excited to see the contrast of good and the greatness that will be created from all of the chaos and the mismanagement that has happened.
Truth is a colic and horse that serves no purpose. Truth is a babbling prisoner. You'd rather not kill than confess.